Alright, check this out. So right here, I have a deck of cards, and I can show you guys that all the cards are completely different. No two cards are the same, alright? So we're going to begin by having a card selected. So I'm going to have my spectator reach in and pull out any card that they like. Let's say they pull out this card right here, in this case, the Ace of Diamonds, okay? Now, a lot of people, especially hecklers, do not think they have a free choice. They're like, oh, he's forcing my decision. He's probably manipulating the cards. A lot of the times that is the case, but I can promise you guys for 100%, I did not force this card on you. It really was a free choice, okay? So, in the meantime, we're going to leave your selection in the middle of the deck. But for now, I need to work with these four cards, which have been on the deck the entire time, on top of the deck, I should say. And these four cards are the four kings, okay? Now, under normal circumstances, I would have the spectator go ahead and pin these four kings down underneath their hand. Obviously, I don't have a spectator with me, so I'm going to go ahead and just use the box to pin down the kings just as so, alright? So this is where your selection is going to come into play. I want you to check this out and watch it very, very closely. What we're going to do is we're going to rub your card over the box very, very slowly, just as so. And what will actually happen is your card actually changes into one of the kings, King of Diamonds. But keep in mind, that is just one. If we come over and rub again, you'll actually see this time now we've gotten all four kings to jump to my hand. The King of Hearts, the King of Clubs, King of Diamonds, and the King of Spades. And now if we check underneath the card box, there's only one singular card, and it happens to be your selection, the Ace of Diamonds. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Cardtrix 8 here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys all enjoyed my performance of the 4-2-1 card trick. And in just a couple moments, I'm going to be teaching you how you can perform it for yourself. This has become another one of my favorite card tricks as of late. Been performing this one a lot, getting crazy reactions every single time. Now, I'm not positive. There's a well-known magician. His name is Patrick Kuhn. I'm sure you guys all know who he is. I'm not sure if he created this trick or if this handling was specifically his. It's one or the other, not too positive. Seen a lot of different takes on this trick. I don't know if you guys remember, but I posted this trick a long time ago on my channel, maybe about 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years ago. It was a long time ago I posted this trick. The handling was completely different though. That video wasn't even anything special anyway. But now that I discovered this, I love this handling much better. It's much cleaner, and I just think it looks, as a presentation, it looks much better. But anyways, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. Let's learn the 4-2-1 card trick. Alright guys, hopefully you stuck around for the tutorial. So this trick isn't too difficult to perform. There are a couple of sleights that if you are not comfortable with them already, you're definitely going to have to practice them a little bit before you can perform this. But again, overall, this won't be too difficult to learn. So with that said, let's get right into it. So on a technicality, the card trick is impromptu. All you need to do is go ahead and remove any four of a kind that you want. In this case, I like to use the four kings, and just set them up right on top of the deck just as so. But if someone were to hand you a deck or you borrowed a deck, it's very easy to quickly just kind of go through the deck and move them to the top. Really not that hard to do. But once you have your setup, then you are ready to begin. So to begin, you're going to have your spectator go ahead and select any card that they'd like. Now obviously you don't want them selecting one of the top four cards in your stack. So if you are concerned that this might happen, you can just dribble the cards and say, hey, tell me when to stop. Just hand them the card that they stop at. You can spread the cards in your hand. Just block push over those top four cards and then spread the rest through, so that way they won't reach their fingers into that little space to grab one of those top cards. Me personally, I don't worry about it that much, and I like to just spread the cards out along the table and say, here, go ahead and choose any card that you want, because most of the time the spectators won't go near the top four anyway. If you do spread the cards out like this and they do happen to pick one of the top four cards, that's really okay. Just have a backup plan, move into a new trick. It's really not that big of a deal, alright? But anyways, let's assume the spectator go ahead and takes out this card right here. In this case, we have the 8 of Hearts, which is completely fine. So once they have the card selected, you can have them sign the card if you want. This is not necessary. You don't have to do this, but if you want to have them sign the card, then feel free. So once the card is selected, you need to go ahead and switch their selection out for the top king on the deck. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can accomplish this. The method that I used in the performance is what is known as a top change, which looks a little something like this. Obviously, that's pretty obvious what I'm doing, but from the front angle, as you can tell from the performance, it is completely invisible what is actually happening. If you don't know how to do the top change, I will leave a link in the description box below to where you can learn it. So you can do a top change if you want. Another thing you can do if you don't want to do a top change is you can take the card, set it on top, briefly, talk to your spectator, and then with a little misdirection, go ahead and just accomplish a second deal just as so. That will also work just as fine. Whatever you want to do what you must to switch out this card for the top card, okay? But once the card is switched out, you're going to take what appears to be their card, what is actually a king, they don't know this now, and you're going to just riffle your thumb down the corner of the deck, place it in the middle and on an angle just as so. You're only placing it on an angle so you can place your index finger on this edge of the deck. This just makes it easier to kind of push off the top 4 cards more naturally. So from here, you're going to push off the top 4 cards and say, okay, we're going to be using these top 4 cards, which I preset here from the beginning. And here's how you're going to do it. You're going to push them off in a very specific way. You're going to reverse count the top 2 cards. So you push off the top card, and then you push off the second card on top of that card just as so. The next 2 cards you're going to push off on the bottom of those 2 cards just as so. Rewatch that if you were a little confused, but it should be pretty simple to follow. Take the deck and set it down on the table on whichever side you hold a thumb break on. So what's the best way I can explain this? Later in the trick, you need to get a thumb break on this packet. So if you're holding the cards in middle grip and you get a thumb break, personally, I hold the thumb break in my left hand. So that means I want the deck to be sitting on the left-hand side of the table. If you were to hold thumb breaks over here on your right hand, which for me actually is very uncomfortable, you would have the deck on the right-hand side of the table. You'll see why in just a moment. So, once you have the 4 cards, just as so, you're going to flip them over and say, these cards are the 4 kings. Now, the scenario is, what you actually have here is their selection in the 3rd position of these kings. They think their card is here, but this card is actually a king because you switched them out. So in order to show these 4 cards as the 4 kings, you are going to execute what is known as the Elmsley count. Looks a little something like this. I will go over the Elmsley count briefly, but I'm not going to go over it too in depth, alright? So the Elmsley count, basically all you're doing is you're holding the cards by the corner with your 4 fingers and thumb. You're peeling off the top card, using your thumb to push off the whole packet except for the bottom card. You're grabbing that entire packet and returning that first card back to the bottom right here. And then just counting off these 2 cards on top just as so. And then in full speed, it should look a little something like this. That is the Elmsley count. So that's just a brief overview. Again, if you need an in-depth tutorial, I'll drop a link in the description box below as well. So they think there are 4 kings here, and their card is in the middle, which again, obviously, after the Elmsley count, their card is going to be situated at the top of this pile, alright? So from here, you're going to flip the cards over, and like I said, their card will now be on top of this 4-card stack. You're now very quickly going to maintain a thumb break on the top card. So you can push the top card over, catch a pinky break, transfer to the other hand in middle grip, get a thumb break if you want, or you can simply just come over with the other hand, lift up, and get a break, whichever you prefer. It doesn't make a difference. So now, what's going to be happening is you're going to tell the spectator to place these 4 cards underneath their hand. And this is the perfect misdirection because what you're going to be doing, and this is exactly why you want the deck to be on the appropriate side of the card table like I mentioned earlier. Because you're going to say, here, hold out your hand just like this. So as you tell them to hold out their hand, they're going to extend their hand and they're going to be looking right where their hand is. So you're going to be like, here, hold out your hand. They're looking at your hand and then they're going to put their hands, they're looking all right here. While their attention is misdirected to where the hands are, you're simply going to take your hand with the cards, move it over to the deck, and drop off 3 of the 4 cards. So right now, I'm just left with the selection. I just dropped off the 3 kings right over here. Obviously, I didn't have a spectator in the performance, so I used the box's misdirection. All I did is I had my thumb break, and I said, okay, we're going to go ahead and use the box. So I reach over to the box. Everyone is looking over here. So all I do is I just put my hand over here and drop off the 3 cards on top of the deck. But again, with the real person, you're going to say, here, hold out your hand for me, and as you tell them to hold out their hand, all the attention is going to be in front of you. So go ahead and just quickly drop off those 3 cards on top of the deck. No one is going to see it. It'll go completely unnoticed, all right? So their hand's going to be out. You're going to say, here, pin these 4 cards underneath your hand. I want to make sure I cannot get to them. Obviously, there's only 1 card there, their card already, all right? So some people might be worried at this point, but won't the spectator be able to tell that that's not 4 cards? They can feel that, right? You'd be surprised. Spectators will not notice. They go with the flow and they don't realize that there's less than 4 cards sitting on the table. So you're going to have them pin their hand down on the 4 cards. It's actually 1. And you can tell them to put their second hand on top. And if you have more than 1 spectator watching, tell them to all build their hands on top. It'll just make it that much more powerful at the end. So here's the scenario. The spectator thinks their selection is still sticking out of the deck and that there are 4 kings sitting on the table, when in reality, you have 1 king in the middle of the deck, you have 3 kings on top of the deck, and their selection is already here underneath their hand. For this tutorial, we will use the box to represent the spectator's hand once again, all right? So now you're going to pick up the deck and say, okay, now we are going to get back to your selection. I want you to watch this very, very carefully. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the card, don't show it, by the way, because again, this is a king. You're going to hold it in a biddle grip, just like this, all right? So it's very easy to do this. All you have to do is pick up the card from the table, just kind of put it on top of the jet, just like this, re-grip, very simple. You're going to come over and rub the spectator's hand with their selected card. So you're going to be rubbing, and as you're rubbing, what you're going to be doing is taking your hand, and you can either just kind of tilt it back like this, let it relax, or for me to be safe, I like to literally drop my hand down to the side of my body because no one's going to be looking there anyway. All the heat is right here in front of me. And what I do when I drop my hand off to the side is I am pinky counting off 3 cards. And those 3 cards are obviously going to be the 3 kings, just as so, okay? So if you don't know how to do a pinky count, again, I'm not going to go over it in depth, but essentially you're riffling down the back of the packet with your pinky. It's a little harder than it sounds, but with a little practice, you will be able to get the knack for it. I will leave a link in the description box below for the pinky count as well. Again, it's a pretty difficult move if you don't know how to do it. So you're going to be rubbing, and at the same time, your hand is down by your side, pinky counting 3 cards. So I bevel the deck, drop my hand down, I'm rubbing, and again, I pinky count 1, 2, 3 cards, just as so. And then I keep my hand down at my side and I say, take a look. Your card is actually changed into 1 of the 4 kings. Now, as I display this, I casually just bring my other hand with the deck back into view. And then all that's left to do is take this card, turn it over on top of the deck, grab all 4 cards from the break, the 3 cards that you counted plus the 1 card you just added, come over with the deck, point to the spectator's hand. This is used as slight misdirection because you have the break, you have the card here. You don't simply want to just do this, look. Okay, so we changed into 1 of the kings. You see that? That doesn't make sense. You're not justifying why you're putting it on top of the deck, if that makes sense. But it looks better when you bring the other hand back into action. So it's something, it should look a little something like this. You can see your card is changed into 1 of the 4 kings. But if we come over here again, so you see I bring this hand back over, use that misdirection. If I come over to your hand again and rub, now you have the 4 cards. Now you can see we have all 4 kings. So again, all you do at this point is you just flip over all the cards, spread them out, show. You can show these all cleanly. I like to just kind of flip them over, show it on the table, show I really have the 4 kings. And now you can invite the spectator to lift up their hand just as so, and then there it is, their selected card, the 8 of hearts. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. All the cards can be inspected, and you are left completely clean. So anyways, guys, that was the 4-to-1 card trick. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I didn't go too in-depth with a lot of the sleights because some of them do require in-depth tutorials, and this video would be way too long if I did that. So if you guys are confused or you do have any questions about the effect as a whole, please feel free to comment your questions in the comment section below. I will respond to any questions that you guys may have. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Again, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys for the next Cardtrix performance and tutorial. Cardtrix signing off. Peace out.